So let's talk about the India AI Impact Summit of 2026. This was an event that somehow managed to create two completely opposite stories at the exact same time. On one side, a massive success story, and on the other, a pretty serious warning.
Right? How is that even possible? How can something be a triumph for humanity and a new kind of colonialism? Well, that is the central mystery we are going to unpack today. And to really get it, you have to understand the story each side was telling.
Okay, so first things first, let's look at what India was even trying to do here. You see, all the previous big AI summits, the ones in the UK and France, they were all obsessed with one word: safety. You know, the big, scary existential risks. Well, India came along and decided to completely change the conversation.
India's big move was to pivot to the word impact. Now, this wasn't just about picking a better sounding word. No, this was a huge strategic shift. It was all about bringing the global AI conversation back down to earth, focusing on how this tech can actually be used in the real world. And, this is the crucial part, making sure the benefits reach developing nations, not just the usual tech giants in the West.
And they built this new focus on a really interesting philosophical foundation they called the Three Sutures: people, planet, and progress. This was a signal to the world that India's vision for AI wasn't just about code and profits. It was about empowering people, protecting the environment, and making sure everyone gets a fair slice of the economic pie.
So, that brings us to the first story, the first verdict. This is the one told inside India. And from this point of view, the summit was just a massive, undeniable success. It was seen as a key step in the country's journey to becoming a fully developed nation, or Viksit Bharat. And the proof? Well, it was right there in the numbers. The summit just opened the floodgates for investment from the biggest names in tech. You had Microsoft pledging $17.5 billion, Google with $15 billion, and our own Reliance putting a mind-blowing 10 lakh crore on the table. I mean, that's a massive vote of confidence from the entire world. But look, it wasn't just about the money, it was about the actual hardware. By the time the summit kicked off, the India AI mission had already rolled out 38,000 high-performance GPUs, and these things are the absolute engines of modern AI. This was the country building its own powerful, independent AI ecosystem so it wouldn't have to rely on anyone else. And all of this was part of this incredibly detailed national strategy. The India AI mission wasn't just a catchy name. It had 7 clear pillars. It covered everything you could think of: compute power, data, training people, funding startups, and of course, safety. This was a serious, long-term vision coming to life. And this quote from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it just perfectly captures the spirit of that triumph narrative. It frames India's entire AI goal not as some corporate race, but as a public good, a tool to lift up everyone, not just make a few people rich. But while that incredible story of success was being written in New Delhi, a very, very different version was being told in the international press. And the second verdict? It was full of skepticism and some really serious concerns. Now, this table is where things get really fascinating. It shows how the exact same event was seen through 2 completely different lenses. So where the Indian media saw light touch regulation to help innovation grow, international critics saw a dangerous lack of rules that could put people's rights at risk. Where India saw democratizing AI for everyone, others saw a system that really just helped big tech. And this really gets to the heart of the disagreement. You have the Viksit Bharat idea, which sees AI as a tool for national greatness. But the counterargument warned of something called digital colonialism. The fear was that India, with its billion-plus people and all that data, was just becoming a giant test lab for American tech companies, a place where they could develop their products, but the real value, the profits, would get sucked right out of the country. This quote from the Internet Freedom Foundation pretty much sums up the whole critique. The argument was that the summit was all about the flashy headlines, the big money announcements and photo ops, instead of having the tough but necessary conversations about the real dangers of AI, like privacy, bias, and fairness. It was basically seen as a huge missed opportunity. So which is it? A triumph or a new form of colonialism? A milestone or a missed opportunity? Well, to figure that out, we need to look past the headlines and try to piece these 2 stories together to see what the real, lasting impact of the summit might be. And one of the key ideas to understand here is the difference between big AI and small AI. Big AI is the Silicon Valley model we all know. It's about having the most data, the most money, and the most powerful computers. India is trying to pioneer something different, a small AI approach. It's about being smarter and more efficient, using its own unique strengths,
like public data and a huge pool of talent, to build great AI without trying to outspend the West.
And you have to know, this wasn't just talk. Behind all the summit hype, there's a very real multi-year plan. This roadmap shows a clear path forward, from getting the mission started to building the right institutions, running pilot programs, and then eventually rolling out these AI solutions across the whole country. The ambition here is backed by an actual timeline.
So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, what's the final verdict? Well, no matter what the critics say, the summit was an absolute success in one huge way. It was a brilliant act of geopolitical recalibration. India basically grabbed the global microphone and successfully changed the AI conversation from the West's fears about safety to the global South's priorities of impact. And that leaves us with the ultimate question. India has laid out this bold third way for AI. But will this new path actually lead to a truly independent, sovereign AI that benefits its own people? Or will the powerful pull of big tech investment just turn it into the world's most valuable use case capital, a place where global products are tested but never truly owned? On that, the final verdict is still very much out.